Hello everyone, welcome to today's video lesson. We are continuing to talk about the Psalms, and our objective for today continues to be the same for this topic and for this unit, to be able to identify elements of wisdom literature. The Psalms are just one type of wisdom literature, and today we're going to look at a couple elements of what makes a psalm, basically. For this video, this shouldn't take very long, and I have just like one sort of mini task for you to do in the middle of this video. We'll get to that in a minute, but that will really be the only assignment for today. Okay, so again, as you watch this video, you're writing down notes, okay, and then completing the little task / question I have for you here in a minute, okay? So let's begin. Let's begin by first looking at Psalm chapter 20, verses 8 and 9. It reads, "They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. Save, Lord. Let the keen hear us when we call." So I'm highlighting this this couple verses here to show you an example of parallelism within the Psalms. All right. So what you probably want to write down in your notes is, parallelism. It's repetition. It's phrasing something in two ways. Proverbs kind of does this too, but here in the Psalms, here's an example. So you'll want to write Psalm 20, verse 8 through 9. You don't have to write out the whole thing, but just note that this is an example of parallelism where, it's sort of, you kind of see how it repeats and, or it's just phrased in a different way. They are brought down and fallen, but we are risen and stand upright. You can kind of see how, it's sort of like an us versus them sort of thing. They are defeated, but we, stand tall kind of thing. So that's just one little example of parallelism, okay? Let's move on. Here is Psalm chapter 104, verses 1 through 4. Let me read it first. It says, "Bless the Lord, O my soul, O Lord my God, thou art very great. Thou art clothed with honor and majesty, who coverest thyself with light as with a garment, who stretchest out the heavens like a curtain, who layeth the beams of his chambers in the waters, who maketh the clouds with his chariot, who walketh upon the wings of the wind, who maketh his angels spirit, his ministers a flaming fire." So I'm highlighting this passage to show you two things: metaphors and similes, right? Two things that you're probably already familiar with, so you don't really need I don't have a definition for those, because you're, as freshmen, you should be familiar with what a metaphor is and what a simile is, all right? In this passage, here's your little short task, okay? There were, I don't know, like 5 or 6 metaphors, or at least like 3 or 4, I think, okay? What I want you to do is to pick out one metaphor in this passage, okay? And just put it in your own words, okay? What is the metaphor describing? And it's all the metaphors and similes in this passage are, they're describing God in some way, all right? So in your own words, describe, or explain to me what the metaphor is and how is it describing God, okay? And just do that in a private comment on today's lesson, and I will count that for your participation points for today, okay? So pause the video if you need to, and do that, and I'm going to move on to the last slide here, okay? You'll want to write all this down. Well, here, let me set this up. This is there's 4 types of psalms. I'm only looking at the first 2 with you right now. Okay, so we'll come back to instruction and liturgical later, but definitely just write out what I have here for lament and then thanks/praise. So the first type of psalm, a psalm of lament, which is just a way of, for the author to kind of, they are crying out to God in some sort of suffering or pain, and just sort of, a lot of times just asking God, why is this happening to me, And what we see in these lament psalms is that God is present even when human beings cannot see or feel his presence. Often, because of their suffering, it's too great, and they're unable to see how God is present, right? Which is very relatable. Sometimes, we just, there's stuff that happens in our lives, and we feel like, God is not there, but we are just sort of kind of blinded by our own pain sometimes. We're not able to see God, right? This is, what we see in these Psalms. Happens today, happened back then, and will continue to happen. But the neat thing about these type of Psalms with lament is that it still includes some sort of hope and a trust in God, that even though, there's this really bad stuff happening right now, and I don't know why it's happening, that also sounds really relatable to all of us right now, right? With everything going on. But we still hold on to some sort of hope and trust in God that, God can deliver. Okay? So let's lament. And then the last one, well, actually, not the last one, the second one, Psalms of thanks and praise. So these types of psalms, they focus on who God is, the nature of God. Not so much like specific things he has done or things he's accomplished or done for us, but just the sort of character of God. When we're thanking and praising God for being, good or strong or, a savior, that kind of thing. We often see in these Psalms thanking God for creation, the things that God has created, or thanking God for, certain things or answered prayers, that kind of thing. And then just one little note here that, these types of psalms, the psalms of thanks and praise, when they were often written to be accompanied by music or singing. And we still do that to this day. Songwriters will, draw inspiration from the Psalms when writing their songs. I think you'll find, the way these Psalms are written lend themselves very well to, music and that sort of creative output. Okay, that is it for today. All right, so make sure you got all that down in your notes. These are important, the types of psalms. These will show up again later, okay? And then there was just that one little short task I had you do with the metaphors. All right, so I'll be looking for that in today's posts and private comments, okay? Until then, I will talk to you later, and I hope you have a good day, all right? Bye.